The autumn sun hung low over the Montana mountains, casting long shadows across the valley where the Morrison Ranch stretched for miles. The air was crisp with the promise of winter, and the leaves on the oak trees had turned deep amber and gold. Jake Morrison, 35 years old with weathered hands and kind eyes, stood on his front porch watching his 8-year-old son Tommy chase chickens in the yard. The boy's laughter echoed across the empty fields, but Jake could see the loneliness there too. It had been 2 years since his wife Sarah left, taking half of Tommy's world with her. The ranch felt too quiet these days, too empty. Jake had tried to fill the silence with work, with chores, with anything that would keep his hands busy and his mind from wandering to what they'd lost. But children need more than just a father who works from dawn to dusk. They need warmth, laughter, and the kind of gentle care that Jake had forgotten how to give. That's when Mrs. Chen from the County Social Services Office called about the mentorship program. A young woman studying early childhood education needed placement for her practicum. Room and board in exchange for childcare and household help. Jake had been hesitant. "We're not really set up for strangers," he'd told her over the phone, watching Tommy struggle with his homework at the kitchen table while smoke poured from the oven where dinner was burning. But Mrs. Chen was persistent. "Her name is Sophia Martinez. She's 19, studying at the community college. Lost her grandmother last year and needs a safe place to complete her degree. Good references, hard worker. Wonderful with children." Jake looked around his kitchen. Dishes piled in the sink, laundry overflowing from baskets, and his son eating cereal for dinner again, because Jake had burned another attempt at cooking. What kind of help are we talking about? 3 days later, a dusty sedan pulled into the ranch driveway. Mrs. Chen stepped out with a young woman who looked both nervous and determined. Sophia Martinez was small in stature, but carried herself with quiet dignity. Her long dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore a clean but worn dress that spoke of careful mending and limited means. In her hands, she clutched a single duffel bag that contained everything she owned. "Mr. Morrison," she said, extending her hand with a slight accent that hinted at her grandmother's Mexican heritage. "Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I promise I won't be any trouble." Jake studied her face as they shook hands. There was something in her dark eyes, a resilience that reminded him of the wildflowers that grew in the harsh mountain soil. Beautiful, but tough enough to survive anything. "Call me Jake," he said. "And trouble seems to find us just fine on its own." Tommy peeked out from behind his father's legs, curious but shy. Sophia knelt down to his level, her movements gentle and unhurried. "You must be Tommy," she said with a warm smile. "I heard you have some horses here. I'd love to meet them sometime, if that's okay with you." Tommy's eyes lit up with excitement. "We have 6 horses and chickens, and Dad says maybe we can get a dog, but he's too busy to take care of one." Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks. "Well, we'll see about that." Mrs. Chen explained the arrangement once more. College credit, practical experience, room and board. It seemed simple enough on paper, but Jake wondered what this young woman would think of their rough, quiet life. That night, Sophia settled into the small room Jake had prepared for her. It was clean but sparse. A single bed, a dresser, and a window that looked out over the pastures. She unpacked her few belongings carefully, textbooks for her education classes, a framed photo of herself with an elderly woman who had kind eyes and a gentle smile, and a worn teddy bear that had clearly been loved for many years. She picked up the photograph and whispered in Spanish, "Te extraño, abuela. I'll make you proud, I promise." Her grandmother Rosa had raised her after her parents died in a car accident when Sophia was 12. Rosa had worked 2 jobs to put food on the table and save money for Sophia's education. "Mija," she would say, "education is the one thing no one can ever take from you." When Rosa passed away the previous winter, Sophia had been left alone with a step-family who saw her as a burden rather than a blessing. The next morning, Sophia woke before dawn, as had been her habit since childhood. She made her way quietly to the kitchen and began preparing breakfast. The smell of fresh coffee and homemade biscuits filled the house, a warmth that had been missing for too long. Jake and Tommy came downstairs to find the table set with real plates instead of paper ones, and food that actually looked and smelled like something from a magazine. This is incredible, Jake said, taking a bite of the fluffy biscuits. Haven't had a real breakfast in months. My grandmother taught me, Sophia explained, pouring orange juice into Tommy's glass. She always said that starting the day with something made with love sets the tone for everything that follows. Tommy devoured his breakfast with enthusiasm. Can you make pancakes too? Dad tried once, but they turned out like hockey pucks. Tommy, Jake warned, but Sophia laughed. I love making pancakes. Maybe tomorrow morning? After Jake left for his work in the fields, Sophia helped Tommy get ready for school. She checked his homework, made sure his backpack was packed, and even braided friendship bracelets with him while they waited for the school bus. You're really nice, Tommy said as the bus appeared on the horizon. I hope you stay for a long time. Sophia felt her heart clench. She'd learned not to get too attached to places or people, but something about this quiet boy and his hardworking father was already starting to feel like home. Over the following weeks, the Morrison Ranch began to transform. Sophia brought order to the chaos. But more than that, she brought life. The house smelled like baking bread and simmering stews. Laundry was folded and put away. Tommy's homework was completed without tears or frustration. But it was the small moments that truly changed everything. The way Sophia hummed while she worked, filling the silence with gentle melodies. How she taught Tommy to make paper airplanes on rainy afternoons. The patient way she helped him sound out difficult words in his reading books. Jake found himself coming in from the fields earlier, drawn by the sound of laughter from the kitchen. He'd stand in the doorway, watching Sophia help Tommy with a school project, or listening to her stories about her grandmother's village in Mexico. For the first time in years, his house felt like a home. One evening, Jake was fixing a broken fence post when he heard music drifting from the house. Sophia was teaching Tommy a simple song in Spanish, their voices blending together in harmony. The sound stopped him in his tracks. It had been so long since he'd heard his son sing. Carlos, his ranch hand and oldest friend, rode up beside him. That girl's got something special, he said, nodding toward the house. Haven't seen Tommy smile this much since before his mama left. Jake didn't respond, but he couldn't deny the truth in Carlos's words. Something was changing in all of them, and it scared him as much as it comforted him. It was during their third week together that Sophia truly proved her place in their lives. Jake had been in the far pasture checking on the cattle when a sudden storm rolled in. Lightning split the sky, and rain came down in torrents. By the time he made it back to the house, he was soaked and worried about Tommy, who was terrified of thunderstorms. He burst through the front door to find Tommy curled up on the couch, not crying or hiding under furniture, as he usually did during storms, but listening intently as Sophia told him a story about a brave little boy who learned that thunder was just the sky's way of applauding the rain. The louder the thunder, she was saying, the more the sky loves what the rain is doing for the earth. Every crash is like clapping hands, celebrating how the flowers and trees are getting the water they need to grow. Tommy looked up at his father with wonder instead of fear. Dad, did you know thunder was happy clapping? Jake felt something shift in his chest, a warmth he hadn't experienced in a long time. I do now, buddy. That night after Tommy had gone to bed, Jake found Sophia on the front porch, reading by the light of the porch lamp. Thank you, he said simply, for what you did with Tommy during the storm. His mother used to help him through them, but since she left, I never knew what to say. Sophia looked up from her book. Fear is just a feeling that needs understanding. My grandmother taught me that when I was afraid of the dark after my parents died. She'd tell me stories until the darkness felt friendly instead of scary. Jake sat down in the chair beside her. You must miss her a lot. Every day, Sophia admitted, but I carry her with me in the things she taught me. Love doesn't end when someone dies, it just changes form. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds of the ranch. Jake found himself stealing glances at this young woman who had brought such peace to his chaotic life. There was something about her quiet strength, her gentle wisdom, that drew him in ways he wasn't ready to examine. As autumn deepened into early winter, the bonds between the three of them grew stronger. Sophia helped Tommy build a scarecrow for the garden, teaching him about protecting the things you care about. She showed him how to gather eggs from the chickens without frightening them, explaining the importance of gentleness with creatures smaller than yourself. Jake found himself looking forward to dinner conversations, where Sophia would share stories from her education classes and Tommy would recount his school adventures with animated enthusiasm. The kitchen table, once a place for hurried, silent meals, became the heart of their home. One snowy December evening, as they decorated a Christmas tree Jake had cut from the back 40, Tommy made an announcement that stopped both adults in their tracks. "I wrote a letter to Santa," he said, carefully hanging an ornament Sophia had helped him make from pine cones and ribbon. "I asked him to make Sophia stay forever, so she can be my new mom." The room fell silent except for the crackling of the fire. Jake's hands stilled on the string of lights he was untangling, and Sophia's cheeks flushed pink. "Tommy," Jake started, but his son continued with the innocent honesty of childhood. "I know my real mom isn't coming back, and that's okay because Sophia loves us and we love her. Right, Dad?" Jake met Sophia's eyes across the room. In them, he saw his own truth reflected back at him. Somewhere along the way, this arrangement for Tommy's benefit had become something much deeper for all of them. The realization that he was falling in love with Sophia both thrilled and terrified Jake. She was 19 to his 35, just starting her life while he felt like his best years were behind him. What could he possibly offer someone so young and full of potential? These doubts plagued him through the holiday season, even as they celebrated Christmas as a family for the first time in years. Sophia had made stockings for all of them, embroidered with their names in careful stitches. She'd baked cookies that filled the house with the scent of cinnamon and vanilla. She'd turned their simple ranch house into a place of warmth and wonder. On New Year's Eve, as they sat by the fire watching Tommy sleep peacefully on the couch between them, Jake finally found the courage to voice what had been in his heart for weeks. "Sophia," he said quietly, "I need to tell you something." She looked up from the book she'd been reading, her dark eyes reflecting the firelight. "This arrangement, it was supposed to be temporary. Help for Tommy, experience for your degree, but somewhere along the way, it became something else entirely." Sophia closed her book and gave him her full attention. "I've fallen in love with you," Jake continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "I know I'm too old for you. I know you have your whole future ahead of you. But I had to tell you, you've brought something back to this house, to Tommy, to me, that I thought was lost forever." Sophia was quiet for a long moment, her eyes never leaving his face. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but certain. "Jake, you're not too old. You're exactly the right age to know what love really means. And you're not taking away my future. You're offering me the one I've always dreamed of, but never dared to hope for." She reached across the space between them and took his hand. "I love you too. I love Tommy. I love this ranch, this life we built together. When my grandmother died, I thought I'd lost my family forever. But families aren't just about blood, are they? They're about the people who choose to love you every single day." As winter melted into spring, Jake and Sophia's relationship deepened and flourished. They were careful to maintain appropriate boundaries with Tommy in the house, but their love for each other was evident in every glance, every gentle touch, every shared moment of caring for the child who had brought them together. Sophia continued her studies, driving to the community college 3 days a week while caring for Tommy and helping Jake with the ranch. Her professors were impressed with her practical experience and the insights she brought to her coursework about child development and family dynamics. One warm April morning, as they worked together in the garden Sophia had planted, Jake made a decision that had been growing in his heart for months. "Sophia," he said, setting down his spade and turning to face her, "I have something to ask you." She looked up from the tomato plants she was carefully transplanting, dirt smudging her cheek in a way that made Jake's heart skip. "You know I love you," he continued, "and I know you love me, love Tommy, love this life we've built. But I want to make it official. I want to make you my wife, if you'll have me." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, revealing a simple but beautiful ring with a single diamond that caught the morning sunlight. "It's not much," Jake said, suddenly nervous, "but it comes with a promise to love you, protect you, and build a life with you that honors everything you've brought to our family." Sophia's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling as she held out her hand. "Yes," she whispered, Yes, Jake Morrison, I will marry you. They were married that summer in the old chapel at the edge of town, with Tommy as ring bearer and Carlos as best man. Sophia wore her grandmother's wedding dress, carefully altered to fit, carrying wildflowers from the ranch. It was a small ceremony, but it was perfect, full of love, laughter, and the promise of a future built on the solid foundation of mutual respect and deep affection. As they stood at the altar, Jake reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. A year ago, he'd been a lonely widower, struggling to raise his son alone. Now he was surrounded by love, preparing to start a new chapter with a woman who had transformed not just his home, but his heart. Sophia looked radiant as she spoke her vows, promising to love Jake and Tommy with all her heart, to be a partner in building their dreams, and to fill their home with the warmth and joy that had been missing for so long. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Tommy cheered louder than anyone, running up to hug both his father and his new stepmother. Now we're a real family, he declared, and everyone laughed through their tears. As autumn returned to the Morrison Ranch, now officially the Morrison family home, life settled into a rhythm of contentment and joy. Sophia had graduated from her program with honors and was considering pursuing her bachelor's degree. Jake had expanded the ranch operations, confident now that he had a true partner to share both the work and the dreams. Tommy thrived under the loving care of two parents who put his needs first while also modeling what a healthy, loving relationship looked like. His grades improved, his confidence grew, and his laughter once again filled the corners of the house that had been silent for too long. One evening, as they sat on the front porch watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and purple, Sophia rested her head on Jake's shoulder while Tommy played with the new puppy they'd finally gotten him for his 9th birthday. "Do you ever wonder," Sophia asked, "what would have happened if Mrs. Chen hadn't called that day?" Jake considered the question, stroking her hair gently. "I think somehow, some way, we would have found each other. Some things are just meant to be." Tommy looked up from where he was teaching the puppy to sit. "Mom always says everything happens for a reason." It was the first time he'd called Sophia Mom without thinking about it, and the simple word filled both adults' hearts to overflowing. And so, in the rolling hills of Montana, three people who had each been searching for belonging found something more precious than they had ever dared to hope for. They found each other, and in doing so, they discovered that love has the power to heal old wounds, create new beginnings, and build families that are stronger than any that blood alone could create. Jake learned that second chances aren't just possible. They're miraculous when we open our hearts to unexpected possibilities. Sophia discovered that home isn't a place you're born into, but a place you help create with love, patience, and the daily choice to show up for the people who matter most. And Tommy? Tommy learned that families come in many forms, but the best ones are built on love, respect, and the unshakable commitment to care for each other through whatever life may bring. As the stars appeared one by one in the vast Montana sky, the Morrison family sat together in perfect contentment, knowing that tomorrow would bring new adventures, new challenges, and new opportunities to love each other well. Because that's what real families do. They choose each other every single day, and they never stop believing in the power of love to transform ordinary moments into extraordinary memories.